I just retired at the end of June. For 19 years, I've been listening to traffic and subway reports on the New York City radio as I drove through the mountains on my way to work. This June, participating in the meetings preparing for the coming semester at West Point, I had the same perspective. In some ways, what I want to talk about today comes from the cheap seats. I don't have to actually teach this coming semester, but it also allows me to see the bigger picture. This is my absolute favorite movie scene. It comes from the movie Apollo 13. Carbon dioxide levels on Apollo 13 are rising rapidly, and the engineers at NASA have to figure out a way to jury-rig a carbon dioxide scrubber using nothing but the miscellany available on the spacecraft. They start by dumping what they have to work with on a big table. That is how I want to start today. We, Sensor, are particularly suited to help undergraduate and even K-12 education not only get through the current pandemic, but to emerge even stronger. Besides our raison d'etre, STEAM, to inform and solve public policy challenge, we love the arts. We use student-centered, active, and often project-based learning. Our courses are exciting, engaging, and innovative, and we often venture beyond the classroom. This session is motivated by the belief that technology-enhanced education outside the classroom can be better than current classroom-bound education. 3 points distinguish our current situation from past attempts at distance education. First, education is central to getting back to normal. Second, this time we start with essentially the same faculty-to-student ratio. Finally, adversity forces change, and change can be good. So here is our Apollo 13 square peg in a round hole. We have courses, materials, and practices designed for rectangular classrooms with 4 walls. We have 1 teacher per classroom. We have 1 syllabus for all, and often common exams. And now we must do all this with physical distancing. And here is our nothing but this. We have sensor habits, student-driven learning, inside, outside, and everywhere. And we have internet-enabled collaboration and powerful personal technology. As an example, I want to focus on one particular idea. One reason Black Lives Matter has drawn more people into the streets this year is that we all got to know Floyd George as a real, 3-dimensional person. So today I want to focus on developing our students as storytellers using familiar mobile phone technology, including cameras, and using personal computing, that is, coding. I'm old enough to remember analog cameras and paying 15 cents or more for each print. Digital cameras, together with a bit of programming, are faster and cheaper. Prints are essentially free. Digital cameras and a bit of programming give everyone almost magical photographic powers. As one example, digital spotlights are free. Imagine now a student using photography to tell a story. He or she would start by storyboarding the story, and perhaps by looking through his or her camera roll for relevant pictures. The next step might be planning additional pictures, perhaps some pictures with clouds. That might generate a weather-dependent to-do list, and our storyteller photographer might think about how each photograph might convey a particular mood or emotion. Analog photographers use a variety of techniques to convey mood, colors versus black and white, and using filters. All of these are free with a bit of coding. Our storyteller might even be faced with a requirement to limit the narration to 20 seconds per slide. With a bit of programming, presto, a big timer. I wanted to convey the conflict we all feel as individuals and as a country between safety and adventure. This conflict, called pandemic fatigue, is in the spotlight now, but we are all familiar with it from parenting and from growing up. This is my first photographic attempt. I made 2 versions of the same photo. On the left, I made a house enclosed in a square box. The house is in color, familiarity, safety, and the outside is in black and white, the unknown and possibly danger. On the right, the house in its box is now black and white, boring, confining, and perhaps too familiar, while the outside world is bright, exciting, and new. It was easy to try out this idea for free with a few lines of code. Now I want to illustrate how photography and coding can be used to tell a story. The story I want to tell is the power of technology-enhanced education outside the classroom, and especially at home. I often teach optimization in calculus classes by using optics. Optics is full of wondrous surprises. In a normal semester, I bring mirrors and an aquarium into the classroom. But now I would begin by asking my students to do an inventory, looking in and around their homes. We all have optics labs in our homes. We can do simple experiments with refraction in our wash basins. We can study reflection in flat mirrors and convex mirrors on our cars and in concave makeup mirrors. If you live in Chicago, you can visit my favorite mirror, the Bean. And rainy days everywhere bring puddles and sometimes even wondrous rainbows. These photos are from the beginning of our stay at home. My last visit to Bear Mountain State Park. Early spring flowers and bare trees. Throughout our stay at home, I took many photos in and around my house. Like our stay-at-home students, we observe a small neighborhood more closely than usual. A forced opportunity, and in some ways a welcome one, to learn about and appreciate the season, flora and fauna. These pictures are from what has become my daily walk. A bit of history, wetlands, and one of my favorite subjects, bridges. We talk a lot about bridges in our freshman modeling classes. They are great subjects for networks and for engineering, and for their economic importance. I'm lucky to live an hour's drive from New York City. But even, and perhaps especially if you live in a city, there is a lot to excite you and to learn from there. This is of course the Brooklyn Bridge, taken at the very end of February on my last trip into the city. And here is one view from the Brooklyn Bridge. You can even see the Statue of Liberty. And now I'm back home at the Bear Mountain Bridge. Think of your students out and about, freed from the walls of their classrooms, taking pictures and telling stories, observing, asking questions, and learning a lot as they do so. Think big. Think of virtual classrooms with some students from the city and some from farms. Think of them taking photographs of food starting at the farm and arriving in the city. We are not starting from scratch. We can build on a wealth of sensor materials and practices, on work that has been funded by NSF and others, and on existing projects like processing.org. Processing is a language I use for playing with images. I like it for two reasons. First, it comes from the visual artist community, not the CS community, and it is designed for artists and storytellers. Second, it has wonderful tutorials, and it is free. My hope is that this session will lead both to a lively discussion and to collaboration leveraging the power of technology-powered learning outside the four walls of traditional classrooms.